Welcome to the second read aloud, where we're going to talk about what America was like in 1812. This is the second part. Now, we are talking about the War of 1812. The war has not started quite yet. However, we're learning about how the British kind of weren't treating America well. There was some different things they were doing. Before we get into our read aloud, let's go over our vocab words. I will read the word. You repeat it after me. Represent. Anyone remember what represent means? Yeah, represent means to be in place of somebody, or to uh, be the to speak for or take action in place of someone or people. So we talked about how the United States, the president represents the United States. Now, just to review what we've learned about so far. So America, we fought against Great Britain already, and we got our independence. We became America. But after the Revolutionary War, we started growing. We started making money and becoming a rich nation, buying land. Then we bought a huge piece of land that almost doubled the size of the United States. However, things weren't the best because we're learning about how Great Britain was kind of not treating us well. First, the thing that was happening was things were getting blockaded. We weren't able to go into any ports to do trading, and that was a big source of where we made our money. The next thing they were doing was impressment, meaning they were taking our soldiers and forcing them to work on their boats, kind of like kidnapping. Then they were stealing our cargo, the things we were selling for money to make money. They were just stealing. We weren't making any money. I know all the three of these things would make us mad already, but there's three more we're going to learn in this read aloud today. So have you ever had two friends who were upset with each other? How did you feel? Whose side did you take? How do you think the United States felt in the early 1800s when France and Great Britain were at war? It's kind of similar. If you think the United States should support Great Britain, stand up. If you think the United States will support France, stay seated. After today's read aloud, you should be able to identify the last three causes of the War of 1812 and show an understanding of the word patience. After the Revolutionary War, each of the first three presidents of the United States wanted the United States and Great Britain to be friends again. George Washington here, John Adams, and Thomas Jefferson. Even before the Napoleonic Wars began, George Washington had tried to establish a peaceful relationship with the British. Under his leadership, the United States and Great Britain signed a treaty called Jay's Treaty. So a treaty is like an agreement or a promise between two countries. In this treaty, the British promised not to get involved or interfere with the United States' business or activity. Do you think the British kept their promise? No, they didn't. They broke their treaty. Remember, we heard why they started to interfere. So another thing now that was making the United States mad was the British were breaking their treaty, their promise. During the time, one of the most common ways for two countries to maintain a good relationship was to trade with each other. The United States sent flour and tobacco and other goods to Great Britain. Great Britain sent tea and manufactured goods to America. When the Napoleonic Wars began in Europe, France and Great Britain became enemies. The United States was caught in the middle. The U.S. government really did not want to have to get involved. Merchants in the New England relied on trade with Great Britain to run their businesses. France had helped America during the Revolutionary War. The United States wanted to keep that friendship too. However, when U.S. ships, cargo, and sailors were being threatened, especially by the British, the United States could not ignore it. In 1807, while Thomas Jefferson was president, something happened at sea that made many Americans very angry with the British. As they often did, a British ship stopped a U.S. ship at sea. The American ship was the USS Chesapeake. USS stands for United States Ship. When the British commander demanded that the Chesapeake be searched, the American captain refused. The British commander did not like that. He ordered his men to open fire. Several American sailors died in the attack. After that, many members of Congress began to call for war against Great Britain. Those members of Congress who wanted the United States to go to war were known as the War Hawks. Now, another thing that they did, they attacked the USS Chesapeake. As time went on, President Jefferson was losing patience with the British. Patience means the ability to wait for something. He tried to stop their aggression. In response to the attack on the USS Chesapeake, the government passed the Embargo Act in 1807. An embargo is a government order to limit trade. The Embargo Act stated that the U.S. ports should be closed to foreign ships, especially the British ships. We said, we are not trading with you anymore, Britain. This meant that there would be no more trade with Britain. The U.S. government hoped that Britain would lose so much money that they would be forced to change their ways. However, the Embargo Act caused more problems for American farmers and merchants in New England than New York than it did for the British. So, did that Embargo Act work? You might think that what was happening at sea was enough to drive the United States to war with Great Britain. But there were even more problems on American land. Even though Britain had lost the 13 colonies to America, it still had control of land in the northern Great Lakes region and the Northwest Territories. Britain also controlled parts of what is now Canada. The British had forts and outposts along the U.S. and Canadian borders. Most Americans during the time were farmers. Many settlers were moving west in search of land to farm. Although the wagons were on American land, the U.S. government began to suspect that the British were interfering with the Americans who were settling in the northern territories, especially in the Ohio River Valley and the Indiana Territory. They believed that Britain was using its outposts in Canada to help Native Americans who were fighting to defend their land from the settlers. So these paintings show Native Americans fighting against the U.S. Army. In 1811, the Native Americans fought to remove settlers from their land in the Battle of Tippecanoe. The U.S. Army fought back. The American soldiers had reason to believe Native Americans received weapons from the British. The British denied it. They insisted that they were only trading with the Native Americans, nothing more. But now, the War Hawks, who supported, and our new thing we need to add, they're arming Native Americans. But now the War Hawks, who were supported going to war with Britain, were furious. The British were attacking American ships at sea, and now they were causing trouble on America's soil as well. The War Hawks in Congress put together a committee. Many of the War Hawks supporters in Congress were from the northern western territories of the United States. They were the ones who were most suspicious of the British. James Madison was the fourth president of the United States. Like the other presidents before him, he tried to find a way to avoid conflict with Britain. He knew that the United States was still a young nation with fewer than 8 million people. He knew they did not have a large army or navy, but the War Hawks believed that if the United States was going to fight Britain, now was the time. Britain was busy fighting the Napoleonic Wars. It would not have enough soldiers, sailors, and ships to fight the United States, too. Some Americans thought that winning a war with Britain might also be an opportunity to gain more land. There was land to the north and to the south that they wanted. Finally, the War Hawks wanted to prove that the United States was a strong country. Still, President Madison did not want to rush into war. He continued to ask the British government to stop interfering with the U.S. ships and to stop trading with the army with arming Native Americans. However, the British continued to ignore the president's requests. With the war hawks demanding war, James Madison finally agreed. On June 18, 1812, the United States declared war on Great Britain. So again, now we just got done fighting with the British in the Revolutionary War, and right here, what is this the start of? That's right, on our timeline here, right here would be the year 1812, and that is when we started our war against Great Britain again. What events led to the Warhawks to want to go to war with Great Britain in early 1800s? Again, there's those six events that we just talked about. So if this is a statement that the Warhawks wanted to stand up, if this is a statement that the merchants or the people who didn't really want war sit down. So these people were members of Congress who wanted to prove America was a strong country. Those were the Warhawks. These people hoped to gain more land in Canada and the British. Again, that was the Warhawks. These people relied on trade with Great Britain for their livelihood. The people who were trading things were the merchants. These people thought it was a good time to go to war with Great Britain because Great Britain was busy fighting France. That was the Warhawks. These people did not want to go to war with Great Britain, the merchants. And these people wanted to go to war with Great Britain, the Warhawks. Our word for today is the word patience. I will say the word, you repeat it after me. Patience. Patience means having the ability to wait for something without getting angry or upset. At lunchtime, we need to have patience when we wait in line for our food. Name a time you or someone you saw showed patience. So I showed patience when? Okay, we're going to go through a quick activity. I will read a sentence. You're going to respond. That is showing patience or that is not showing patience. The students were counting the days until winter break, but still working hard in school. That is showing patience. Stefan finished a puzzle for his little brother because he felt his brother was taking too long to get the last piece in place. That is not showing patience. Baxter waited for his grandfather to walk across the street, even though it was taking him a long time. That is showing patience. Jennifer kept asking her mother how much longer it would take at the grocery store. That is not showing patience. Jeffrey brought a book to read while he waited at the dentist for his appointment. That is showing patience. Then our next read aloud, we're going to learn a little bit more about some of our characters. So we're going to learn more about James Madison, the fourth president of the United States, the one who declared war on Great Britain. We're going to learn a little bit about his life as well. So stay tuned. See you again.